Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to the Making It Medicine podcast. So today we've got a big update on previous episodes that we've talked on. But before we get into that, I'm just going to reintroduce myself. My name's Miles, if you haven't been here before, and I'm joined by
Tway.
We're both third year medical students at Lancaster University. Today we're going to be talking about the outcome of the UKFPO survey that they did way back in January. Okay, and there's some big news. Okay,
Some very big news.
so let's jump straight into it. Essentially, after trying to access this webpage for about an hour and having it repeatedly crash on us, the UKFPO have announced that they are scrapping the EPM score and the SJT section of the foundation program allocation.
They made the change.
They made the change.
Finally made the change.
So everything we were talking about beforehand,
And just like we predicted, not to be cocky,
it's come true.
has come true indeed.
So a lot of you are going to be asking, what does this mean for me? What does it mean for kind of my colleagues, my family? Where am I going to be placed?
Yeah.
How is it all going to work? So we'll briefly re-describe everything that they proposed, and then we'll go through kind of our thoughts. We'll talk about kind of our people that we know, because people have already commented. I was receiving messages like, oh, have you seen the UKFPO change everything?
I was walking into the library today, a whole group of, our friends were like, have you heard? It's been done. I was like, what, really? Both? They were like, yeah, SJT and the evidence performance measure. But we're going to talk about it. So I'll let you continue with.
All right. So just like we said in our last episode way back when, I can't even remember when, but essentially the change is that they're scrapping the old system in which you used to basically get an EPM score, which was a measure of how well you did relative to the people in your university, okay? And that was based on your outcome in projects, on your exams, on your OSCE, on everything, okay?
Anything graded.
Anything graded was included in the EPM, okay? However, they're now getting rid of that. They're also getting rid of the SJT, which is the Situational Judgement Test portion of your assessments. Okay, and that kind of tests your professional kind of clinical reasoning, your kind of PPVE, as we call it here at Lancaster.
Your professionalism, your ethics, things like that they love to test you on when you're applying to medicine via the UCAT situational judgment. It's pretty much that with added complexity that is obviously required of a final year medical student about to become a doctor. And this test has been notorious for being annoying, and everyone hates it. So
I mean, there's pros and cons to it. So some people have loved it because it kind of apparently it makes for well-rounded doctors, and not just bookworms who are absolutely ethically inept, but it allows for both kind of smart doctors as well as ethically well-versed doctors to make good clinical decisions in the best interest of their patients and stuff like that. But then at the same time, it also has been a bit of a pain for a lot of people. Just because you do all this work, you make sure you've studied hard, hours and hours and hours, going to MedSci revision, and then there's PPV content that you learned since like second year. You're like, I have no clue what you want me. And the thing is, right, like even if you've done a UCAT, you understand exactly what I mean. Even if you give like a reasonably logically correct answer, that might not be the professional's answer. Does that make sense? So if you are not exactly with what the professionals are saying, you're wrong, even though you might be logically correct. But hey ho, everyone has an opinion. Yeah.
Like I was talking to my placement partner today, and she was talking about the SJT.
Yeah.
She literally called it. She said, today I think they're going to announce it. I
Really?
was like, how do you know that? She's like,
inside man.
And I was like, wow, right, okay. Funny thing is, I actually emailed the UKFPO as a joke saying, when is the announcement coming?
What, today?
Yeah, today, earlier today, and it came out. So they didn't reply to me. Unfortunately, I didn't get the inside scoop. But she said that the issue with this SJT is with certain things like depression, you're not going to refer a patient with depression first line to CBT and not give them some medication whilst they're waiting 2 years, right? But this is something that's tested in the SJT, and the answer is don't give medication, refer them to CBT, because that's what the nice guidelines say. But in reality, in real practice, you're not going to leave that patient alone waiting a referral for 2 years. It's just it's not applicable.
I think it doesn't. Well, it's good in terms of trying to, implore medical students and clinical professionals going into their careers to look at the ethical implications, but sometimes it doesn't account for the reality on the ground, which is a very, very important factor when it comes to medicine. Because I think, well, we're not going to get political here, but certain politicians just don't get the reality of medicine on the ground. They have this kind of rosy picture, but it doesn't really translate over to the actual clinical practice. Okay.
Yeah. So, in summary, they remove rankings, they removed the SJT, and now all you need to do is pass medical school and you get placed wherever you rank your preferences. Now, ranking your preferences, we're going to talk about exactly what this new system proposes. This new change that's been and done, it's now happened, it's solidified. This is what you're going to have to live by now as a medical student. You rank your preferences in something called Oriel. Oriel is a system where you can rank it from, I think it's 1 to 10, isn't it? I don't know I don't know how many rankings you do. Let's say, your top 5 preferences, right? Let's say you live like I do in Bournemouth and you want to work in Wessex. You rank that deanery as your number 1, and then the others as your number 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, a competition ratio, before I go on to describe what the others are, competition ratio gives you an idea of how likely you are to get your placement. Competition ratios now show you how competitive something are. So if it's 1.5, that means there's 1.5 people applying for every one job. If it's 2, that means 2 people are applying for every one job. It's more competitive the higher it goes. Now, if you're wanting to work in London, like you are, now that's at least 2 point something. 2 point something at the very least, everywhere.
Northeast, northwest, south.
Yeah, exactly. So now, let's say you worked really hard in medical school in the previous system, you got great grades, and you did really well in your SJT because you prepared as much as you could for an SJT. You get to be placed in London because you're competitive, right? With this new change, no matter how hard you work in medicine, it's a flip of a coin. You place it, you rank it as your number 1. A computer will generate a ranking for you. Now, you're not going to generate your own ranking. Your grades don't matter at all in generating your own ranking and in ranking yourself as number 1 to 10, 5, whatever it matters. The computer is going to generate it for you. Then the computer will give you, hopefully, your first preference. But if your first preference is something with a competition ratio of 2.7, you're unlikely to get it. Luckily, where I want to work in Wessex, the competition ratio I think was 0.78. So I'm more likely to get it. Under either system, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if that competition ratio is over 1, I'd be a bit annoyed right now.
Yeah. I think I was looking at some chats actually earlier where people were kind of like conversing and like really debating, is this good? Is this bad? What does this mean? And I think someone raised a really important point. And I think, what happens if we all pick really competitive ones?
I mean, naturally you would, right? That's why they're competitive.
So
naturally you'd want to work
that
somewhere.
there's no real way to guarantee your place in your deanery unless you guaranteed pick one with a very low competition ratio, where they need the work. So I kind of hinted at this in the last time we talked about this. I feel as though part of this change was an aim or a move towards trying to fill positions that were previously not filled.
100%. 100%.
And I think it's going to end up happening just because looking at the numbers, it just won't work if everyone applies for, the same 6 deaneries. Not everyone is going to get a job in those 6 deaneries. Randomly allocated, everywhere will be filled. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to put it bluntly, for those that aren't in the medical field, right? Medical students right now work their ass off to get a high medical school ranking, then they can choose where they go for their first 2 years of residency. This naturally leads to a lot of places, rural areas, where people don't really want to live. They're not going to choose those areas. And the clinics and the hospitals, the NHS staff there are short-staffed and they're struggling. With this new change, medical students pretty much will get placed somewhere at random, according to their preferences. But they can get placed somewhere that they haven't even, it's on the bottom of their list.
Like, I genuinely, no, but I want to ask the question, what would happen if all of your preferences have already been taken and your EPM score is really low? Where do you go?
You get placed somewhere random. So this is the whole point.
Last one, or is it completely, like, not even on your preference list?
I think it's not, well, it will be like the bottom of your preference list. Statistically, you will never not get anything in your preferences. Okay. But they do this so they can fill all the NHS hospitals in areas that people don't want to work. And you might have a top grade student getting placed in a hospital that they didn't want to work at. And under the old system, they would have been able to get their choice. They would have been able to get their first choice, their second choice, whichever one they wanted.
Now, I think people might be asking, oh, what's the deal? You're working at a hospital. You're still going to get a job. Da, da, da. But here's the thing. The type of hospital you go to and work at will dictate the opportunities that you now have for future kind of opportunities. So say if you want to do research, big teaching hospitals, you're in a much closer vicinity to conduct that said research rather than being a completely rural hospital where you'd have to commute hours and hours, spend like loads of your own money to get into the city to do that research. That's also more time that you're taking out of your day to, instead of studying, instead of revising for, you know, your MRCP. And like, you got to realize like there are real implications for this change. Like there are real implications for people who have already planned 4 or 5 years ahead.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that's what you do naturally. You want to plan your future, right? So say, like yourself, you live in London, you want to be home with your family. You've been away from your family for 5 years already, 5-6 years. Now you've worked your ass off during those 5 years to say to your family, hey, listen, I can come back home because I'm going to get placed in that hospital I want to be placed at. And out of nowhere, the UKFPO go, nope.
Off to Isle of Man.
Yeah. Yeah, so that it's and then you will have gotten top grades because you worked your ass off to be able to live at home with your family. And someone random can get your spot who might not even have their family in London. They might just want to work in London. And I'm not saying one deserves it over the other, but I mean, if you work off, you should be rewarded for your work, right?
I mean, there's some people who won't even just want to work in London, but if your family depend on you,
yeah,
that's when I think those are the situations where you should have some semblance of control.
I think there should be some extenuating circumstances.
I think there should.
I think if you're a carer, if you're, you know, those kind of reasons, they should say, okay, you know what, this spot is reserved for you.
Yeah. Because without them, like, some people will genuinely not be able to cope.
No. This is the thing as well. This has real life implications because let's say your plan is like me to go home and live in my family at home so I don't pay rent, my costs are less, and I just work and I get more money. I get to keep more money rather than paying it towards rent. Well, if I got placed somewhere random that I can't live at home anymore, I can't commute from my family home to that hospital, then I'm going to have to rent, which means I'm taking a financial hit. So there's financial sides to this decision as well. Medical students might be like, oh, great, stress-free. But what happens if you get placed somewhere you can't even, like, you can't afford? What happens then?
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, I guess that's the whole point of the preference system, but I feel like it's one of those ideas that's really good in theory.
Oh, yeah, I feel like it's
set
definitely
in motion
one of them.
and in practice, it's going to be really, really tough to stomach.
But here's the thing, right? Obviously, changes, it's at their own discretion whether they can return a change if it's horrific. I remember, though, in the live webinar, now, I mean, people can fact check this, I can be wrong, but I remember in the live webinar, they said that any changes made have to last for at least 2 years before they can be rescinded. So there'll be 2 years, 2 or 3 years of cohort students at the very least going through the system.
Well, I mean, we were looking at the actual official release, and I basically quote that they said that the changes will be applied across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland and will be implemented for the 2024 Foundation Programme round, which opens for applications in August 2023. So starting from 2024, if they're not going to make changes for 2 years, that's until at least 2026 that we're in this system. I don't know. It really is a free-for-all game.
It is definitely.
But, I mean, from what I was hearing initially, a lot of people were like, oh, I don't know, I'm not so sure, I don't really like the change, I really want to have some control. But looking at the results that they posted, they said that most respondents indicated they would like to move to a preference-informed allocation for 2024. So that's for the changes, and this was at 66% on their survey. A smaller percentage wanted to retain the current system with the SJT and EPM at 33%. And I don't know why, but they included this statistic. A large majority of respondents, 85%, agreed with the statement that the SJT can be very stressful for applicants. That I don't know how useful of a question that is, because realistically, all medical school exams are going to be stressful.
Yeah.
So to put that down as a significant statistic is a bit, I don't know. Is it really that useful? Who knows? I'm currently trying not to get cancelled by the UKFPO.
Well, just to say something on those statistics. So 66% of people preferred the, what is it called? The preference allocation?
Yeah, the preference-informed allocation.
Preference-informed allocation. 66% of people preferred that. Well, let's go into statistics a little bit then, if they want to mention some statistics. I'll play devil's advocate here. This isn't my opinion, but I'm just giving the other side. On average, when you rank students in a medical school, there will be more people who don't get their preferences than the people who do when you're using rankings, purely because when you're looking at grades and grade boundaries, there is a less proportion of students who get top grades who can then pick whatever place they want. Majority of students can't pick the place they want, so the majority of students would naturally support this change. Now, is that fair? Or should we go for the purely meritocratic way of doing it and reward people for their hard work and attainment? Now, this could be a debate all in itself, right? But this is the thing. So these statistics, obviously more students are going to want it, because, not to sound rash or rude with it, but more students, the majority of students don't get the high grades.
Exactly.
The high grades are high grades for a reason, and they're rare for a reason, because a small proportion of people get them. That's why they're coveted. That's why they're like gold. That's why everyone wants them to pick the place they want. Now, if you were to ask people with the high grades, hey, do you like this change? They can be like, no. No, I want to go back to London.
Yeah, they want to go where the opportunities are. And if say someone like that, who's, you know, come from a really good medical school, who's done really, really well, who's put in their time and effort, heart and soul, and then they get placed somewhere where they don't really have as many opportunities for research, for, you know, career furthering prospects, to meet all the, you know, the types of people that would allow them to facilitate the career that they want to do. I don't know. How fair is it really?
Yeah, true. But here's the thing as well. So I talked to my academic tutor. I won't name drop him because I don't know if he wants to be named. But he said that although the change might happen, and, you know, you might be wanting high grades, you might be wanting some certain place, it's only 2 years. After that, you do your MRCP, and you doing your MRCP whilst already have been a high-flying student getting high grades and high rankings, even though they don't count for a UKFPO placement, that will mean you're a high-achieving student. And high-achieving students mostly always remain high-achieving students. You're going to do well on your MRCP, and then you'll be able to go to the hospital of your choice for your core medical training. And he said it won't affect you in the grand scheme of things, because being a high-achieving student means you're going to be high-achieving further on in your career.
That is very true.
And you know what? I believe that. I do believe that. I think they can remove a part of the process, or they can equalize it or make it easier and equal, but they can never equalize the whole playing field.
Yeah.
They can never do that, because at the end of the day, certain fields are harder to get into, and that's for a reason, because you want competent people to be doing that. Do you want a heart surgery from someone who just scraped past every single exam? Now, that sounds very, very... I could get cancelled for saying that. I could get very cancelled for saying that. But the truth is, if you scrape past every single exam, your ranking isn't high enough to get into surgery. That's the truth. So that exists for a reason. And the reason is they want competent or hardworking people to be in that field. So... And I'm not saying surgery is better than other things. I'm just saying that's the reality. I can't change the reality, but that's how it is. I personally like the change, to be honest, because I'm going to Bournemouth. Like I said, Wessex has got a competition ratio of 0.78. So I'm chilling. If anything, it makes it easier for me. My band's already good. My ranking's already good, but it's even less pressure now. I can just...
I mean, for people like me, listen, we're facing a bit of a drought.
Come to Bournemouth, Habibi.
You know what? The thing is, it wouldn't even be that bad. Like, yes, I'd love to stay in London, but number one, it's expensive to breathe in London. It costs you, number one, not only your money, but your health.
Oh, yeah.
London is an acquired taste. It's not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that now. But at the same time, like, I do want to live with family. I do want to, you know, stay somewhere where I'm not going to get charged extortionate rent just for breathing. And this change does make that little bit harder. I think a lot of people are going to have to, you know, reconcile a lot of decisions that they make from now until kind of graduation or until 2026, where we'll see if they'll actually make any changes back. But like, what was it? Is it Aladdin? Whole New World? Is that?
Are you quoting Aladdin?
Yeah. Deadpan quoting Aladdin.
Most people quote like Socrates.
Yeah, nah, screw Socrates. Disney is my home. Please sponsor us. But yeah, I think I'm lucky in the way that I think I don't need any one place to be my home. I'm comfortable wherever I am. I'm ready to adapt. And I think a lot of people are going to have to develop that skill. Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be a rough ride. Talking
about developing skills, I hope this is a lesson, for both of us, but all students, nationwide. Stay aware of the updates. Like, keep your eye on the ball, like where the system is leaning, how the system works, how your training pathways work, what other pathways exist outside of the NHS, in the NHS, whatever suits your, your character. Don't accept a job that you're going to hate. That's the main thing. Pick a job you love. And to do that, you need to find something that you love. And to find something you love, you need to be aware, you need to be constantly eyes open looking. We knew that this proposal was coming the moment it was announced. Yeah. We attended the live webinar. We did all this, engagement stuff, the surveys, we checked the questions they asked, we looked at everything.
I think you could tell from the tone alone of the webinar that it was kind of out of irons. It wasn't because it was a survey. It wasn't a referendum. No. They got us in the first half thinking, they're going to give us some choice. No, they said, we'll ask your opinion, but we'll make the decision.
It was like a Qualtrics survey.
Yes. Exactly
when like these things where they're like, it's a proposal. We're proposing to change the rankings and the way students are placed. Please give us your opinions in a survey, and we'll get back to you after meeting with the board, i.e. my friends. And we're going to relay to you our decision. I reckon, like Shreya said this today, she said they probably had a decision the moment before they announced it, and they said, all right, on this day, we're going to tell them the rankings are gone. Like, and we'll just host theatrics. Other than that, the webinar was also very controlled. You couldn't ask questions that didn't follow any narrative at all. Like, I asked certain questions and it wasn't asked. There was none of my questions were answered in the webinar at all. Like,
that's rough.
None at all.
Hey ho, no. I mean, we're now in the new world.
Yeah, but this is the system we're in, right?
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying, like, stay aware, because they can make changes just like that and you can't do anything about it.
Oh, I have a whole opinion on that. The moving goalpost theory?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a real thing for me. And, we could start a whole new episode on that. But I think the message that this change brings is, like, us as medical students, we need to stay ready. Every single one of us listening needs to stay ready, because if they move the goalposts and you're not ready, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah. Well, they moved the goalpost with the intercalation. Yeah. No more points for that. Yeah. Like, it literally looks good now. That's all it is. It just looks good.
No, but low key, like, they're kind of making medicine a bit more fun.
I think they are. I think it's much more
side quests, a lot more fishing in my future.
We have more time to do this now, for example. We have more time to breathe.
If you guys are now like chilling a bit more, just hit me up. We'll go fishing. Like, we'll all go fishing together. Yeah.
We'll show some clips of us fishing. Caught some massive fish. Yeah,
some massive rainbow trout.
Yeah,
actually delicious as well.
We cooked it. It was beautiful.
I apologise to any vegans listening, by the way.
Yeah, or vegetarians. I mean, they care as well. But
true. But
the pescatarians are going to love us.
They can come join. All right. So we're probably going to call it there for today. We're going to keep it short and sweet. Nice little update on the progress of the UKFPO announcements. In terms of future episodes, we've got a lot coming. Things have been planned.
We've got exams coming up.
Yes.
They're in like 4 weeks' time, roughly. So that's why things are a bit slow.
Yeah.
But other than that, we will get back on it.
Indeed. Especially post-exams. Summer / the beginning of next year, best believe, absolute bangers coming, especially if you're interested in research.
Yes. Yeah, you got some good things lined up for that.
Indeed. All right. Anything else you want to
just
talk about?
Let us know your opinions on this change. I want to hear thoughts that we haven't discussed today, some original thoughts. I want to know what, caveats people find with this, because it is a very interesting thing to discuss. And I think it will open future opportunities as well. With every change comes some window of opportunity.
Indeed. That was philosophical. I liked it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's not Disney, but but yeah, other than that, just let us know your thoughts. Comment down below, and I'll let you do the whole like and subscribe.
Well, guys, you know the drill. Guys, remember to follow us on Instagram at MakeItInMed. Take a look at med camps as well. Follow us on Twitter. Share your thoughts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That was not a threat, but just keep in touch. Let us know what you think, and well, let's just keep going. That's all we can do right now. All right. Otherwise, we shall see you guys in our next episode.
Peace.
See you soon.